Hello and welcome to Parklife Sport. I'm Ethan Georgiou and I'm joined here by George Didcote, who is reporting for Cheltenham Town. We're just going to be going through the transfers, everything that happened during January, and just analysing what differences and what impacts they could have on the club. So first of all, for Cheltenham, what would you say was the key signing over January?
Key signing, I'd go for probably an unexpected signing for Gary Johnson, being Joe Rodon on loan from Swansea. I think, it wasn't necessarily what Johnson wanted, but he'd admitted that we'd been looking at him since he played against Cheltenham in the Checker Trade Trophy. He wasn't offered to us by Swansea until a few days before the end of the transfer window. So, Gary snapped that up really. He didn't need him, and I think some people may see that as a negative. We don't need him. He might not be used maybe that much, but I think the fact that we offered him and we snatched him up before any other club could shows that there's got to be something. He's very highly rated. Man City have been looking at him, stuff like that. And Johnson's obviously used that for a reason why he's brought him in. And I think defensively he's going to really help out if he gets into the team, and I think that'd be great. From a Forest Green point of view, we know they've made 10 signings.
Yeah, it's been a busy January for Forest Green. Obviously, the owner has got a lot of money alongside him, and the club does have a lot of money, and that's shown over the period. Obviously, with Cheltenham, there's been a lot of loans. Yeah. With Forest Green, it's been a lot more get them in the club, keep them in the club. There's been very few loans compared to full purchases.
Yeah.
And the one that I would highlight would probably have to be Ruben Reid from Exeter. When he joined the club, he'd gone on a bit of a dry spell with his scoring. He hadn't scored since September.
No.
But then he scored in his debut, and obviously that's given fans a lot to hope for. And I think this is a player who's also played for Plymouth as well as Exeter, and his experience in the Football League in these kinds of divisions is got great experience. And I think when you're working alongside a striker like Christian Doidge, who's just been scoring for fun this season, I think that they could be a real threat up front. And I know that Mark Cooper's been practicing drills for them. He's been focusing just not solely on those two, getting the connections and the communication right between them. And I think if Ruben Reid can play with the form that he'll know he has, I think they'll do an amazing job for Forest Green.
If he can hit the ground running, he's really one of those players he's got that experience at that level.
Yeah, definitely.
He can, he will make a difference.
And with the goal in the debut shows that he has
hit the ground running,
but build on it.
Build on that, yeah.
Anything else in terms of Cheltenham?
So brought in a couple of forwards. At this League Two, you're always going to need players who can score your goals.
Of course, yeah.
Cheltenham had one in Mo Iso. He's been fantastic really this season, but at times he's looked a bit. They've got plenty of other strikers around him, but he's looked isolated at times. It's looked like there have been players who can't quite, he can't quite cut it. And it's his first full season in the Football League, so he's not going to be perfect first time. There are times where you wonder, is his decision making all right? But he's got 14. So bringing in, so he brought in Elijah Adebayo and Sammy Odelusi, both who have scored since coming. I mean, Odelusi's only played the one game. He picked up an injury, but I think you're always going to need your strikers, so they look like they're going to be two really key components. Especially Adebayo, he's a young lad, showing lots of potential. He's played 3 games for Cheltenham. First game, I say he looked totally out of it. He didn't look good enough. I think Cheltenham lost anyway. He was dominated by a good defence, but recent home fixture against Barnet, he looked much more switched on. He looked like he was settling in, chasing balls down, which is perfect.
That's what we need as well. Someone who will work
at League Two. A hard worker goes a long way. I think fans will be happy if he can keep improving. I wouldn't say they'd be happy with it now because, like you said, 7 loans now. I
was going to ask in relation to the loaning. Is there a chance that players will get frustrated with this? I mean, obviously with the rule of only being allowed 5 lone players in the squad, it means that he'll be forced to leave players out. Gary Johnson.
Yeah.
Could this be a problem? Do you think?
Yeah, I think players are going to get frustrated for 2 reasons. I think you've got 7 loans, only 5 can be named. So that means if everyone's fit, everyone's challenging, 2 are going to be missing out. Yeah. That may frustrate them if they've been brought in to get that more experience, to get that game time, and they're not getting it. But at the same time, they're going to be in a competitive squad, arguing and fighting for places, which is great from a manager's perspective.
Of course, yeah.
The second way they're going to be frustrated is not necessarily the lone players themselves, but the fringe players in the team. So, for example, someone like Matt Bauer, who's been with the club, competing for a place in the first team for 18 months now, hasn't really had a fair crack of the whip, and now there's more defenders coming in. Yeah, he's pushed down further. We've also got George Lloyd, who signed a professional contract.
A lot of potential in him.
Exactly, been scoring plenty for the reserves and stuff like that. Once again, hasn't really been given a chance.
Yeah.
Signed 2 new strikers. Now, obviously, if he'd have come straight into the starting team, once again, that's a lot of pressure on his shoulders. And if you're struggling, which Cheltenham are, they're picking up the odd point, but it's not what you want to see.
Stagnated.
From a fan's point of view. So, if you're leaving that sort of pressure on a young player to come in, I mean, he's done right to bring in more forwards, but so there definitely will be some frustration.
And in relation to you mentioned the fans. Obviously, Gary Johnson's dad, Lee, is at Bristol City, and there's been son has been at Bristol City, and there's been obviously a flow of Bristol City players coming in.
Yeah.
Do you think fans? Part of this is they're bringing in good players that could make a difference, but at the same time, do you think fans are frustrated that essentially he's just being fed players by his son?
It looks like it's a bit of a scapegoat, doesn't it? It looks like it's from the outside it's. We need to sign players. We need players. Or he's just managed to get some off his son's helping him out. But I don't think really that's how most people think. I think it's obviously a brilliant link. Bristol City are doing incredibly well, and if we can
get players
off of them, then that's brilliant. But so for this season from Bristol City, we've got 3 at the moment. Obviously, Freddie Hines has gone back. Didn't really get a fair chance. I can see why it would be frustrating from a fan's perspective, but especially as the players brought in haven't been what a fan would want in a player. We've got a young defender, little experience at League 2 level, and you don't want to be going into a season with a defence that has little experience. They had little experience with each other anyway. The players, and obviously, but the loans that have come in before January, I'd say they haven't been, the most solid, the best that you want. And you can see why people would get annoyed with stuff like that. It looks like, on one hand, that Gary's just doing Lee a favour, getting his players experience before he goes back to Bristol City and they start to really grow. And it's like, we've got our own academy, why aren't we promoting those sort of players? But, you can take that.
It's still, bringing in players that can potentially help you.
Exactly.
And that they're in a position where they do need help. They're not safe yet. So
No.
You mentioned earlier as well defensive kind of experience, and that's definitely something that Mark Cooper's tried to bring in the signing of Gavin Gunning. He's brought him in from Grimsby Town. He's also played at Rotherham, and he's got huge experience when it comes to these kinds of leagues. And I think Forest Green's defence is a young one, and I think an addition like this can definitely help bring them together. I think young kids playing are needed. They need the older person to guide.
They need that experienced player. They've see Gunning. I've watched him play against Cheltenham. He's quite an aggressive. He got sent off, so
aggressive in that one.
But that experience is going to go a long way. They've got quite a fight ahead of them. Bringing in players like that, it might not come the end of the season. It might not be that they've needed a big fight. They may, escape relegation easily. It's so tight.
You're looking at a team here who are obviously low down the table. They're struggling, and that's with the goals that are going in. You'd have to look at the defence for that. And it's on an 18-month contract, which again is what I was talking about earlier with the intent. It's not all loans. It's brought him in for a solid amount of time. And then he's also been joined by Chris Clements as well, centre midfielder from Grimsby Town. Again, it's funny because I went on the Twitter for Grimsby fans and they were gutted to see him leave. And it wasn't because of a lack of quality or a lack of game time. There is claims that he had a falling out with the manager, which is probably a good thing for Forest Green fans, because it means it's not that he's just been thrown away. He's a good player. He's been described as very creative, and I think, like I said a minute ago, the attack is. I think Forest Green have an attack definitely good enough to stay up. It's defensively and in the midfield that changes, and subtle improvements needed to be made, and I think that's exactly what they've done. This player has been bought on loan. He's one of the few that have. but I think he can definitely help make a difference.
Yeah.
For Cheltenham, I'll let you pronounce his name, but you've brought in a new left back.
Yeah.
Just left back in particular is needed, really.
Yeah, I'm sure most Cheltenham fans will be happy that the club signed a left back. They've signed Ilias Chatsatheodoridis.
Impressive.
He comes in, he's only 20, he's quite a small lad, but season at the moment, the whole season we've been without a fullback really, which for many clubs they've got 2 or 3. If we're talking all fullbacks, they've got 3 or 4.
That's had an impact as well, hasn't it, on your midfield? In that your most creative midfielder, Carl Winchester's ended up in left back.
Everyone's been frustrated. Some fans call him Winniesta.
Winniesta.
Yeah. So with a reference to his creativity. So when you've got someone like that stuck in defence, it's obviously going to frustrate fans struggling to get goals. Like I said earlier, it's only Isa that's really picking up a lot of goals, and then you've got such an influential midfielder at left wing back or right wing back. Ilias coming in is going to mean that he can move into the midfield, have a much more creative role, which is really what we want to see.
And that's what I think, having been to a few matches myself, I think creativity in midfield is where Cheltenham are lacking most.
Yeah.
Mo Isa is, doing well with what he's got at the moment in terms of being, fed the ball. But I think if you can get someone who can give him the ball regularly, repeatedly, and give him chances, then he really could be a threat.
Yeah, he is. I mean, he's not going to do it all on his own.
Of course.
But
although he's doing it all right on his own, isn't he?
We've seen what he can do on his own. If he gets, we've got some good attacking, creative midfielders behind him. João Sellers is by far not a bad player. He's a brilliant attacking midfielder. He's brilliant with the ball at his feet. It's just that decision making, and Carl Winchester has that decision making. I think fans would agree that he knows what he's doing.
Well, that's all we've got time for. Thank you for tuning in. And if you've got any questions, queries, any topics you'd like to talk about, please do get in touch with us at Parklife_sport on Twitter. Thank you.